One rice grain, not one caress, not a blade of grass. This land is all I know. We gonna make it somehow. We will bend.
And Madam. Members, we have
You are welcome.
only 6 paragraphs for this agency, and I put all the paragraphs for our consideration. So the floor is open to all members who desire to ask a question. Member Gillian.
So, Chair, if I recall, when we last examined this agency, we left paragraph 1047. Because there were a number of questions that needed to be answered. Could the PS indicate if she has submitted a copy of the contract to the Parliament office as requested?
Yes, honorable member, a copy of the contract was submitted in addition to the tender board award, a copy of the payment voucher, and a copy also of the minutes of the ministerial tender board meeting.
And that was circulated to all members.
I must apologize. I probably didn't get that. I haven't seen it. So if I could get a copy, I'll be happy.
Yes. Can we furnish the member with a copy, please?
And while we're getting that copy, could the PS tell us who signed the contract?
Well, the contract was signed by the permanent secretary who was acting at that time, Ms. Barcoy, DPS. And the contractor.
And what was the date of that contract?
Yes. The day the contract was dated the 29th day of July, 2019.
Through the chair, Mr. Chairman, could the PS or in this case, if she so designates, the person who was acting as the DPS indicate how and why this particular query occurred?
Yes. Well, as we would have indicated before the last sit-in, it was obvious that the work was done before. Emphasis was placed on getting the job done, and all the paperwork, I guess, was done after. But the contract, I can ask the Ms. Barcoy if she wants to share share something with us on this.
Ms. Barcoy? Governor.
What would you like me to share?
The question that the member would have asked, would like him to repeat it?
Well, if I can recall, you can correct me. You would have indicated question when the contract was signed as PS mentioned July. The question,
Would you like to repeat the question?
Yes,
member?
what led to the circumstances of the contract being signed, the execution of the work?
Oh, sorry, was yes.
the
As
contractor,
oh, she's speaking. Sorry.
Okay, let us have Miss. Yes, go ahead, Miss Moore.
the contractor would have submitted a request for payment.
Your mic. Yes. Go ahead.
Yeah. The contractor would have submitted a request for payment for this contract for the works that were executed in June. And so there were no documentations, even though there was in place at the time. The engagement had occurred in May. The documents were signed in June. The request for payment came into the ministry in July. And as such, to facilitate that payment, the contract was signed in July during my tenure as PS in July.
Follow up, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
From the board minutes that I'm reading today, MTB reference 2019. Ministerial Tender Board deliberated on the following matters on the 20th of June 2019. And one of the contracts that they deliberated on had to do with this contractor being awarded. That's in June. But the PS indicates that why this contract, even though it was awarded in June, it was not signed until July. Because the tender board minute shows that the deliberation took place in June.
Added to that, could you also say when the work start? Did the work start before or after the contract signed? Anyone?
The contract was signed after the work was completed.
Pardon?
The contract was signed after the works were completed. As I would have indicated, a request for payment came to the ministry on the 15th of July. That's when I received the request for payment. And so I facilitated that payment during my tenure as PS acting. My tenure for PS acting commenced from the 2nd of July to the 26th of August, 2019. I have a copy of the appointment letter to the board.
Could Ms. Barkar say who instructed her to pay without a contract?
So she said 2nd of July to some other date. She was acting PS. Can I get the full date, please?
2nd of July, 2019 to the 26th of August, 2019.
Mr. Chair, we have a question on the floor that is unanswered in here.
Can you repeat your question for the honorable member?
I'm asking the permanent secretary
Mm-hmm.
if the tender board met on the 20th of June, deliberated and awarded this contract, why a contract was not signed before the date in July?
That question is for
The permanent
the
secretary.
permanent secretary. Ms. Burrows, can you answer the
Yes.
question?
Yes, honorable member and chair. Yes, the tender board deliberated on the matter indeed on the 20th of June, and the member is asking why a contract was not signed during that period.
That is correct.
I am not certain what may have happened if the contractor was not available at that time or what. I really cannot remember right now.
I'd like to follow up on this. Ms. Barcoy just told PAC that her letter of appointment to act as PS, my quality had wrote it down correct, 2nd of July in August. You told the PAC the last time that you were here that this is the only time something like this ever happened, and it happened while you were on leave and Ms. Barkay was acting. That's what you told PAC.
No, please, may I? No, we were specifically referring to the contract here.
Miss Nestor, could I be allowed to finish, please?
Okay,
Yeah, but
sorry.
you can't. You're giving a wrong impression based on how the minister's response to the question at the time, member.
I asked the permanent secretary the last time she was here, why did something like this happen? Permanent secretary says to PAC, it was the first and only time something like this happened. And it happened during the period when she was on leave and Ms. Barcoy was acting as PS. The PAC made a decision to invite Ms. Barcoy to answer those questions. That's why she's here this morning. The question that I'm putting to the permanent secretary now is that the contract, the tender board, deliberated on this matter while you were literally on the job. Ms. Barker just said a request came for payment July 15th. And she facilitated that payment by executing a contract to facilitate the payment. But all the arrangements for this work was done materially during the time that you were in position substantive the permanent secretary in June. That's the point I'm making. And I'm asking,
okay,
how to reconcile the two things.
Okay, may I speak now?
Go ahead,
Yes.
ma'am. Yes.
Okay, Member Edgel, I can recall when we were discussing this matter, the questions were asked about defects liability period and the contract and the different dates. We also looked at, you also would have mentioned the date when the award was issued and all of that. So when I spoke about me being on leave, when I mentioned that, it was during the time of the contract, not during the entire period. I was on duty during the month of May and June.
So you were on duty when this work was executed? If the defects liability period, according to the Auditor General, was to the 15th or 16th of June, it means you were substantively in the chair as permanent secretary when this work was executed.
But as I
Could I, while the PSC is thinking, add a different question,
Yeah, not
additional
thinking.
question?
Allow the PS
not thinking.
and then I'll give you the floor.
Okay.
Yes, I was on duty during the month of June.
So you were there when this contractor executed the job. You were there when the tender board met and agreed that this contractor has won the award to execute the job. You did not put in place a contract to facilitate payment. The work was finished, the defects liability period was passed. The contractor requested payment while you were on leave. So PAC was told that this happened in your absence.
Oh my God.
But that in itself, honorable members, does not suggest that the contract wasn't available. The contract was available, just that it wasn't signed. And she indicated she cannot give a reason why. Probably
It was available. I didn't hear that, Mr.
And
Chair.
the contract was available.
Chairman, can I put some?
no, they would.
Was it available? But
There was no contract. I had said I cannot
no
recall if the contractor was not available at that time, but there was no contract. I really cannot remember to tell you the truth, the God's truth right now.
Mr.
I've
Chairman,
been deliberating on this matter in my mind all along since we met the last time.
Okay. All right. Member Tashiri, you have the floor.
Yeah, clearly what the audit report talks about is that the contractor was paid prior to the
Mm-mm.
contract being signed,
No,
and that
no.
Ms. Barcoy responded
Mm-mm.
that she was instructed to pay. And I want to ask Ms. Barcoy, who instructed her or authorized her to pay without a contract being in place?
The contract was clear.
Yes, and before you answer, what gave guidance to the work that the contractor did if he didn't have a contract?
Exactly, Mr. Chairman.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Barker.
Yes. Now, the relevant officers who would have overseen the work would have indicated that he did the work. It was the satisfactory completed. There was in place as well a tender board award for that contract. So based on that information, when I received the request of payment on the 15th of July, on those grounds, I facilitated the payment. But there was no written contract prior to the departure of the permanent secretary.
It's getting more confusing.
It's not confusing. You want me to track back?
Exactly, very.
Yes, please.
Based on the information and what I'm aware of,
Yes.
PS would have indicated to this house that there was an oral contract. The specifics of that
Oral
contract, I think PS is the best person to address that. As I would have indicated as well, based on the submission of the tender board documents, that was held in June. Specifics as to how that was done, that ought to be addressed by the substantive PS. I'm also indicating that effective from the 2nd of July, 2019, after the works would have been completed, the parties to the oral contract, I received the documentation on the 15th of July, requesting payment from the said contractor. Speaking with the relevant officers, there were no contracts in place. However, they did verify that yes, the works were completed. So based on that request for payment, as well as the tender board documents, that was used to approve the payment for the said contractor. And that was done on the 9th of July.
But the question that the PS, I think Mr. Chairman asked, how would the contractor know what to do if there's no contract with scope of works, etc.? And what would be the terms of the contract and the mobilization, etc.? The Auditor General says that certification of inspection was done on the 16th of June, 2019. Defects that liability from the 15th of June to the 16th of June, 2019. That's page 361 of the Auditor General's report. So in other words, all the work was done and certified and defects liability period prior to a contract being issued. This is a major breach of procurement rules.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yes.
We
Remember, I understand the concern and what I did, but as I would have indicated before, in terms of the scope of work, the nature of the work, and in terms of the contract conditions, the substantive PS will be able to speak to that because it's obvious from the documents that it was done in May and June. I would not be able to answer those specifics.
Chairman.
Go ahead, member.
Thank you, sir. Sir, I want to go back from the beginning because I think it was a bit confusing there just now. And I'm going to see if I can put it into perspective. So 3 contractors were asked to submit quotation to effect electrical works, upgrading of breakers on the ground floor, first floor and second floor. And the 3 contractors that submitted the quotations were Eon Solomon Electrical Contractor, Ray McKenzie, and Climate Changer Refrigeration and Air Conditioning Services. And they were asked to submit quotations for the installation of one 630 amps 220 volts 3-pole main breaker with enclosure, and two 250 amps 220 volts 3-pole main breakers with enclosure. And the quotations came in on the 24th of May 2019. Am I correct?
Yes, Chair, member.
Good. When these quotations come in, the proper thing to do was to summon a ministerial tender board to award the contract. That was not done. Am I correct?
To some extent, the tender board was deliberated on it in June, not in May.
Now, I understand the tender board deliberated on it in June. I am saying when these quotations came into your ministry, please state the 24th of May, you were the substantive PS at the time.
Yes.
Chair. So these three quotations came to your office and they were requested by you. Correct?
Yes, the quotations were submitted to the ministry.
Yes.
And the quotations gained the ministerial tender board's attention.
Now I understand it gained the ministerial tender board's attention in June 20. I understand that. Between the 24th of May 2019 to the 20th of June 2019, the work was done between that period. Correct? I'm operating PS. I'm operating
based on the contract.
Operating on the assumption that you decided single-handedly from looking at these three quotations to request of climate change, refrigeration, and air conditioning services to facilitate the work because of the amounts submitted for the three quotations. That was the lowest of the three. Am I correct on that assumption?
Well, the tender board would have awarded it, yes, based on the lowest bidder.
Yes, PS, I think we're missing the point I'm making. The board awarded it to the lowest bidder. Because climate change, refrigeration, and air conditioning services. But climate change, refrigeration, air conditioning services did not execute the job after the award. They executed the job before the award.
That's correct.
That tender board operated on the premise of who did the work already. And it is clear that somebody had to give climate change, refrigeration, air conditioning services the job on a criteria. And I'm asking if that criteria or criterion was on the basis of them being the lowest bidder. So I'm saying, PS, that I'm going to put this to you and you tell me if I'm correct, that you sat in the chair of permanent secretary, looked at three quotations between the period May 24th and June 20th, and decided that you are going to engage climate change, refrigeration, and air conditioning service for this job to the tune of $852,180 and not the other two, because climate change was the lowest bidder, and you engaged them orally to go and do the work, which was to install two electrical stuff. And they did it between that period. They executed it. And after their execution, you had a tender board meeting on the 20th of June 2019, brought the 3 quotation to the tender board, facilitated the process so that payment can be acted upon, because you can't pay the people if you don't have the relative or necessary checks and balances. And the breach that I point out there is the fact that you acted ultra vires of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, the Procurement Act, those 2 acts in specifically, you acted ultra vires of those 2 acts. Are you willing to accept that, PS?
Honorable Member, I can recall the matter was brought to my attention as PS. The quotations were brought to my attention. And I cannot remember having discussion with the contractor on that, on executing the job. Only I can recall when we engaged the tender board, the tender board was engaged on the matter. I recall the tender board awarding it, but it was brought to my attention by the staff under, yes, the supervision of the relevant officers, and that is how everything was done. As I said before, emphasis was placed on getting the job done before following due process. So we did at our last meeting also, we would have agreed and apologized for the breaching of the SME Act and also the Procurement Act. We have apologized.
P.S. I hear you when you said that emphasis was placed on getting the job done before the necessary procedures were followed. And that is exactly what is the breach.
Yes.
Project. But P.S., those are actions that we cannot tolerate. Those are actions that we cannot tolerate for the simple reason it can be a precedence for other jobs or other contracts that are of greater magnitude and more complexities. I understand, PS, that this is a simple job that was required, which specifically spoke to the electrical upgrading and especially the electrical upgrading of the main breakers at the ministry. It was simple. It was like if you wanted a pencil to buy and you just went and buy it and then went to tender board to pass the you get it.
And also, yes, member. And also to avoid major disruption of the ministry's work, I think the project was given some amount of urgency.
All right. No,
but yes, we agreed. We agree. We have breached the regulations.
Thank you. But I am saying to you that it is not something that should be tolerated at any point in time. And the fact remains that these checks and balances, these systems that are in place, these procedures that ought to be followed is not there as rubber stamps. What you did here was to clearly make the system a rubber stamp. That cannot be tolerated and must be, Mr. Chairman.
I think, all right, if I may, I think your point is well captured, Honorable Member. The PS has acknowledged to the committee that an error in the breach of these regulations were done, and she also indicated at the last meeting that it had never occurred again. But as the member would have indicated, PS, every effort must be put in place that these regulations are followed to the T. And as the Honorable Member Hack in his last presentation would have indicated to the committee, in certain instances, sometimes, for example, emergencies, you have to put aside the regulations at times to deal with those emergencies which may be life-threatening. For example, a breach of the seawall. Contract cannot be put together immediately to address that. You might have to foresee those regulations. But those are in many instances, unforeseen circumstances where that may be occur and the committee can accept based on the nature of the emergency, then those procedures can be excused for the execution of that for the safety of the people and even the community of which would have been affected. But this committee stands resolute to ensure that every accounting officer, when they are executing their duties on behalf of the state or whichever agency, they must follow the law to the T. Member Tashiri, you have the floor.
Yes, just a comment, one comment on something you just said about emergency works. The Procurement Act provides for that, and there are mechanisms to deal with that, even in a disaster. There is no situation where contracts are not signed and money's paid. That's what we're dealing with here. Monies were paid where the contract works were done without a contract in place. But let me go to, if I can move to paragraph 1049. The minutes, sorry, 1049. Mr. Chairman?
Before you go to Member Tashiri, before you go to 49, Member Edgy has another question on the
Okay. Sorry about that.
So go ahead, Member Edgy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to put on the record like that. Thank Mr. Mahai-Paul for crystallizing the views of the PAC on this particular matter. But I have a matter that is more concerning, Mr. Chairman, on this particular matter. Because I think the permanent secretary owe it to the public and to all of us at PAC. Because the last time when we met here, we dealt with this matter. In my own layman's words, the permanent secretary washed her hands clear of this matter and said it was the person who was acting on her behalf. That was reported in the media because this is a public hearing. It was reported, yes. The issue here with all of the documentation that is before us, this was a matter that was handled by you. The request for quotations.
No.
The tender board minutes.
No.
Could I be allowed to finish?
Ms. P.S., the members on the floor, you will have an opportunity to respond.
Sorry,
So please,
I'm getting some difficulty here. Sorry.
The mic is on and we hear your.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
All right, go ahead, Member Etche.
It is clear the documents that are before us is that the requests for quotations were in May. You were the permanent secretary. The work was done in June. You were the permanent secretary. What was done after the work was completed. You were the permanent secretary.
IT guy, could you view the PS mic, please? Thank you. Go ahead, Member Edge.
But the last time when you were here, you told the PAC, and that is why Member Mahai-Paul requested that we have the DPS come here, answer the questions, which I agree to. When the DPS is here now, the person who's acting as the DPS, it is clear that you were offering to PAC an explanation that clears you of any wrongdoing. That it was somebody else who was acting. Transactions happened while you were the PS. The only thing that happened was that in order for the man to be paid, because he wasn't paid, when the request came, documents had to be created to facilitate the payment, which was the signing of a contract, getting the voucher signed off, and the rest of it. Find that to be unacceptable. because public officers must take responsibility for their actions, not put it on other persons. That, for me, is what is intolerable. Not just the mere breach of the procurement process, which is wrong, because we have the rules to follow. Saying to you, Mr. PS, you are the chairman of the tender board. You could have held a tender board meeting at any time before the man started work. Board meeting. I quite quietly pointed out that somebody would have had to make a decision to engage the contractor without a tender board meeting. Tender board only met after the fact, and that's what the Auditor General is pointed out. Payments were not facilitated until July when the man requested the work. So the issue here is one of accepting responsibility. I think this is a lesson that we should make clear. No accounting officer or head of agency should seek to remove themselves from being responsible by putting somebody else, because we do that repeatedly here. Tell me. Fine, tell them, but you are the accounting officer. We can't allow this to happen, and I needed to make that point. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, if I can
May
make comment,
may I speak,
Chairman,
please?
if I can come in after Ms.
Hold on.
Yes.
May I speak, please?
Oh, who's that?
Yes.
This
Yes, go
is
ahead.
Ms.
Go
Barrow.
ahead. Go ahead.
Yes. Member Ejel, I heard you. And again, I am repeating that when we first discussed this paragraph, when I would have mentioned that I was not there, you were referring to the contract.
Inside.
When again, I am reminding you, sir, that you spoke about the defects liability period and the dates of the contract and the payments. And for member Teixeira, the payment was made after the contract was signed. No payment was made before. So, and
Yes, at no material time did you tell PAC that this was something that started. It was only the facilitating of the payment. The impression of the PAC is that this entire transaction took place in your absence.
Yes.
That is you give to PAC.
Chairman.
I'm so sorry, I did know. I did not. I'm sorry if I gave that impression. It was not, because if you look at the minutes and the award.
Okay, PS, several members were given that impression.
Okay, well, I'm sorry.
I too was given that impression.
I am sorry. And again, I don't think I should be blamed in its entirety for that, because I am someone who always follow the rules and regulations of the public service. This is a really unfortunate situation.
Chairman.
Yes, go ahead, member.
Chairman,
right.
since I've been a member of the Public Accounts Committee,
I'm waiting, Mr. Chairman, too.
This is one of the rarest of situations where I have to agree completely with Member Ejil. And the impression that was conveyed to me at the last time was that all of this took place whilst the then Deputy Permanent Secretary was sitting in the chair of Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Legal Affairs. And I further understood from the last time that the tender board had to meet to basically make the formalities of this project. And I do believe that the PS misguided us in the way she presented the case the last time, and that led to myself and Member Ejil requesting the presence of the now Deputy PS at Ministry of Public Works. And I believe that if we were provided and guided accordingly, perhaps the Ministry of Legal Affairs would not have had to appear here today for this important breach. But additionally, sir, I want to say that it is important for us, and when I say us, I mean these accounting officers, to follow the letter and spirit of the law and these various procedures in place to enhance accountability and transparency of the people's money. Thank you, sir.
Member Teixeira, you have the floor.
Yeah, just one comment, Mr. Chairman, is that I support what has been said by Minister Etchell and Mr. Paul. However, I want to add one other thing, and that is that, two other things actually. One is that this was not emergency works. Solar panels being in place and waiting for the breakers to be put in is not an emergency and would have no effect on the ministry. So the reason why was this rushed through is there's no explanation. Why was this contract given to proceed when there was no emergency and the breach occurred? And also my advice to Ms. Barcoy as the DPS, that being presented by the contractor with works being completed was not sufficient for her to issue the contract. That it should have, and I think DPSs and PSs can refuse to do things that they know are unlawful. And this was unlawful. It was not allowed. And she should have reverted to the Auditor General's office and the NPTAB to get guidance on what to do. But they, so I think that there were major breaches occurred, but there was no reason for the Ministry of Legal Affairs to rush a contract to do with breakers, because even if the solar panels are in place, until the breakers are in place, there's no effect on the running of the ministry's electrical system. And so the rush with this is what worries me, how it came about. But I won't go into that. But I think that both persons need to be warned, because even though it was something that preceded Ms. Barcoy's there, the fact that it was wrong and it was a breach of the Procurement Act should have led to the DPS taking action and getting advice from NPTAB and the Auditor General as to what to do in such a situation, and not to just sign and issue a contract.
Well, I think both PS, Deputy and the substantive PS, I think this exercise here today, given the fact that the committee was somewhat misled by the information provided, it provides a greater clarity, and it reaffirms the position that the accounting office is the principal individual in charge, and the letter of the law must be respected by all accounting officers. So despite the lapse or the misinterpretations, I think this provides, this opportunity here gives greater clarity on the expectations that the PSC expects to be executed by all accounting officers. I trust that this wouldn't be a repeat, and we can move forward with the confidence that all accounting officers making their appearance before the Public Accounts Committee knows full well that no side in this committee will uphold any accounting officer not executing their duties in accordance with the law. Members, do we have any additional questions? Member Chiretta, you have the floor.
Yeah, I've asked to go to 1049. Yeah.
Not a question on it, but I do want to make a very brief comment on the matter. And we come to the PAs, the Public Accounts Committee meetings, time and time again, and dealing with this particular matter, it opens back a floodgate of issues that we have been dealing with from time to time. And I have to say, I think I believe to some extent that sometimes persons take it a little too lightly. And I'm not speaking specifically to this matter, but I'm speaking very generally with officers adhering to the laws that guide them as to how they should conduct themselves and what should and should not be done. And I believe it is necessary for us to continue to provide and more so to give a stern warning to persons that breach these regulations, and also to give caution to these contractors that are doing works without a contract. And I've heard, and we've had several issues and several times things being raised with contractors going out there and doing work without a contract. You know, a lot of caution needs to be put there out there to the public, but a stern warning must go out time and time again to these officers that are not adhering, because we do not want to continue to keep coming to these meetings and saying, oh, well, you should not breach these regulations. You should not breach these regulations. I think it has to, we must get a little more stern in our approach to this. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, could we move to 1049? Could
Yes,
we move
go
to
ahead.
1049 if you'd allow?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, in the minutes, I'd indicated a concern in the response on the issue of 1049 regarding the $99 million that was spent on legal services hired mostly in 2019. The issue that I'm raising was same as I raised earlier when we were meeting internally, is that the minutes say the procurement process was utilized and the contracts were sole sourced and submitted to NPTAB for approval. My question is, one, it appears from the minutes, I wasn't at that particular meeting, that the contracts were sole sourced and subsequently then sent to NPTAB for approval. Secondly, when did NPTAB, or if NPTAB gave an approval? Because I'm aware that in my ministry, all consultancies, hiring of consultants have to have NPTAB approval. So I'm just wondering, again, it seems as if it was a done deal. They were sole source, sent to NPTAB for approval. Were the contracts issued prior to NPTAB being sent to NPTAB? And secondly, did NPTAB approve all these contracts totaling $99 million? Because they could not have been issued without NPTAB approval, or should not have been.
Mr. Chairman, I want to interject on a point of order. My recollection of this paragraph is that a long explanation was given by the Solicitor General, Mr. Hawk, or Hawks. I'm not sure which one, Hawk. And this was the paragraph where we brought out in 6284 line item, the increases in the sum when we spoke about the Ministry of Legal Affairs now having 12 state councils, when we spoke about the importance about getting external help, and the Solicitor General also explained that there are about 10 cases per day.
Mr. Chairman, my question is to do with the provision of legal fees in court cases of $99 million, not about hiring attorney
I
general.
understand that, but I'm asking if this paragraph was open also, because I think when with this lengthy explanation,
1049 was.
it was left open.
No.
That is what I don't recall. Yeah, I don't
Well,
recall.
I have a right to reopen it. The chairman said that all the paragraphs are
You're going to
open.
bring a motion there, dear.
I don't have to bring a motion. You're not the chairperson. You're not the chairperson.
But I can remember us closing it with the Solicitor General providing a detailed explanation.
I am listen, in the letter sent to the PAC dated March the 6th, 2022, which was circulated by the PAC this last week, it has Appendix 3 that gives payment of legal fees. So there's a breakdown of all the court cases and the provision of legal services and the cost, totaling $99 million. So that they did respond to whatever was asked in the PAC on March the 6th. And that is to provide the list of court cases. My question is, based on the minutes and what Mr. Hawke is purported to have said, that they were sole sourced and submitted to NPTAB for approval. In the PAC, before we came to this, I said that I wanted to know if what is missing from the minutes is that NPTAB give approval. And I was advised that this matter, we need to deal with it when we come to Ministry of Legal Affairs. So I waited my turn for that. I have a very simple question. Did NPTAB give approval for each one of these contracts, totaling $99 million? It's a fair question because it's the same issues we've dealt with just now. You can't tell me I can't ask a question.
Mr. Chair, if I can give some guidance.
Go ahead, member.
I went from the minutes.
I know Mr. Shera was not at that meeting, but
I read the minutes.
I believe that for further guidance, the Hansard should also be gone through because the Solicitor General did answer all of those questions in detail. So I believe the Hansard definitely needs to be circulated on that. So Mr. Shera would get more answers that she's looking for there. But those were specifically answered.
But why are you deflecting? It is a very simple question. I read the minutes.
Here to repeat the same thing over and over.
It does not clarify whether NPTAB gave approval for these contracts totaling $99 million. It is a simple question.
Member Teixeira, with regards to your question, the Solicitor General, when the same exact question was posed, his response was yes. And we have the officers here from the Ministry of Legal Affairs who can attest. And I would like to open the floor so that they can also reaffirm or deny what was being said.
That's all I'm asking for, sir. That's all I'm asking for.
Well, Mr. Chair, I can answer that question.
Yes, go ahead.
Member Teixeira, yes, approvals were given for the payments to be made.
Each one of the contracts?
Yes, honorable member.
Could you say when? These were all 2019, except two cases. One case was 2015, and one was a Soko case. One was a Soko case, and one was an arbitration. So, yes. Why was a Soko case, by the way, being dealt with by the Attorney General?
I think only the Attorney General may be able to answer that.
Mr. Chairman, on a point, please. Sir, I have a fundamental problem with us examining paragraphs in great details. And then we come at another meeting and re-examine it to get the same answers that were answered before. And as Member Juretta said, the Hansard can attest to the lengthy answers that were provided to this paragraph. And I believe, sir, that maybe the minutes didn't capture it properly, and therefore the Hansard should be circulated indeed, at least a soft copy. But my position, sir, is that when we're going to have a situation where members are absent from a meeting that happened, and then they come to another meeting and want to go and re-examine what was already examined, it's time consuming and it's a waste of resources as far as I'm concerned. And if we are going to practice that, sir, it means that I can absent myself from a meeting, come back and request that we go back to ask questions pertaining to what was already examined. And I want to put that on record, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Chairman,
I have an additional question. And this is one. Whilst Mr. Paul feels that having concluded a paragraph, no one has the right to ask a follow-up question, I don't agree with. I've been in the PAC where we have concluded paragraphs and where questions are opened up because not everyone is the fount of knowledge, and sometimes we may not see things the same way. But in regards to this issue, because of the volume of the amounts that were given, can I ask if Cabinet gave approval? Because all of these contracts were above the cabinet, the threshold of the ministry. So any contract, even consultancies that are over the ministry's, ministry's threshold, which I think is $1.5 million, you have one for 4.8, one for 5.6, one for 7.1, one for 5.3, one for 34.1, one for 25, one for 10, one for 5.8 million. These all had to go to cabinet, not just for NPTAB approval. This had to be awarded by cabinet. And that was not raised in the minutes, nor was it raised in the verbatim. And I know that. And that's why I'm asserting my right to ask these questions. Did cabinet give approval for these contracts? Not just NPTAB alone.
Member, my position is one in which I embrace. However, it is the chairman's prerogative to allow members with regards to asking questions. And we aren't going to be setting a new precedence. Once the paragraphs are closed, we are going to move on. But in light of these questions, and moreover, the minutes has reflected that we would have indicated that we will allow questions to be asked on this said paragraph. It's here in the minutes 7.5.12. All right, and I did put all of the paragraphs for our consideration. So the member has the right to ask whatever question that she so wish to ask. And the question is, what was this approval, cabinet approval?
Thank you.
The members, the question before the attending members of the Legal Affairs Committee.
Just to clarify, sorry, thank you. Just to clarify for the meeting, the total sum that is mentioned there under each consultant or each attorney is not what was sent to the tender board. For example, do we have a copy of what was sent to the PAC? Do you have the spreadsheet, appendix 3?
Yes, we have appendix 3. Yes, we have it.
Yes, okay, let's say for example, the first one, Robertson Law Firm. There is a block figure there of 5.6. Now there was a consultancy for 1.9, one for 500,000 and so on. So it was just blocked and put the one figure was placed there against each consultancy. So indeed, we would have received and the board's approval, and if the cabinet would have had to approve, approval would have been granted as well for those.
Could you
would
provide,
have exceeded.
Could you provide the PAC with the copies of the cabinet approval for those that were above the threshold?
Okay.
Yes, you're saying to PAC you have the cabinet's approval?
I do not have any with me here, but I will let this officer check the ministry's record.
Okay.
If any is above the NPTAB's limit, cabinet would have given approval.
Above the Ministry of Legal Affairs threshold.
And above the, yes, NPTAB would give those.
Member AJ, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Permanent Secretary just indicated to us that the sums that were provided block figures, but they are block figures of several components.
Mm-hmm.
Is this several contracts for the same consultancy, the same case? Because we were told, one moment, we were told that these cases had to do with the no confidence motion. Am I correct?
Yeah, not all of the cases had to do elections related.
There were 3 that didn't.
Let me see one.
So tell us which was the 3, because I'm going to contract splitting now. But if you're telling me that we have different contracts, if it is the same case, same lawyers, and we're paying different on different contracts, we're splitting the contract.
No, I don't.
No, there is no split of contract.
I would like to hear from the Permanent Secretary. if all of these, which payments could I be allowed to get the answer so we could clarify it? Could we be told which of these cases had to do, like for example, Robertson Law Firm that you quoted just now, one was to 1.9, one to 500, were all of these sums related to the no confidence case, or was the law firm of Robertson being paid for other cases? Please.
Yes, other cases. For example,
cases.
Hello?
What were the other cases?
Okay.
Chairman,
I was just told that the appendix 3 was circulated to each member. So Robertson Law Firm, we have 4 matters listed under his name. The first one is non-election related matter, which is Bibi Salim. I think you have it.
2015.
Yes, 2015. And then there is another one for the second case, and then there's the other one. These two may have been one contract. And then there is one for Winston.
We're talking about a 2015 case. We're talking about 2019 appropriations.
But let me ask the Solicitor General.
Appropriation 2019.
Chairman, can we ask for the Solicitor General, Mr. Nigel Hawk, who I heard earlier was online, to bring forward a clarity? Because I can't vividly remember that he did the last time. So can we ask for him to bring clarity, please?
Mr. Hawk. Mr. Hawk. Apparently he's not responding. Can the PSM answer the question?
Yes, he is on. SG?
Miss
Yes.
Burrows, please proceed.
Yes. Can you remind me what the question is, please?
I'm asking, you said to PAC just now that the figures were block sums.
Yes.
But there were several different contracts that total that block sum per name. And you went in to say the Robertson Law Firm received 5 point something million, but there was one for 1.9, one for 500, and so on. All of the payments were for the same case.
Yes. That's not
Could I get the answer from the permanent secretary? No.
PS, could you respond to the member's question?
The members, I'm getting this kind of breaking up. I'm not getting him clearly.
Speak slower so that if the internet is giving problems, would slowly transmit to you. I'm asking, in as much as you indicated to PAC that the sums stated alongside every firm or individual that was paid out of this $99 million were for several different payments, totaling a particular amount. I'm asking if these payments were for the same case. If it was not for the same case, please indicate what was the other cases. Because you told us the last time, your team, this related to the no confidence motion. And if we are making several payments for the same case, the question is this not contract splitting? Because we have to agree, you're providing a service of $5.4 million. You could get payments in different stages. Interim payments could be made as the case, as the work. But if it's same case, and you're making different contracts to facilitate payments for the same case, that's the clarity I'm seeking.
No, they're not. The cases are not the same. Like I said, I was given an example with the first name listed, the first form listed. The first one there under that Robertson Law Firm. That one was a 2015 matter.
Hello.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Mr. Hall?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes.
Go ahead, Mr.
Hello?
Hall.
Sorry, I didn't get a question. I was doing something.
Oh,
But I know you asked me to speak.
So we needed some clarification with regards to the awarding of contracts to several of the law firms that were in receipt of contracts. And
Sure.
the honorable member was asking if it's contract splitting and due to the fact that this sum that was allocated to one, for example, one law firm. And
When you say contract splitting, what
I'll ask him to rephrase the question for you. Go ahead, member.
Specifically find out, Mr. Chairman, based upon the Procurement Act, Part 3, Administrative Structure, 1.4, 14, a procuring entity shall not split or cause to split contracts or divide or cause to divide its procurement into separate contracts where the sole purpose of doing so is to avoid the application of any provision of this act or any regulation made thereunder. I'm asking if the ministerial board level, the permanent secretary has a threshold that she could award a contract for or he could award a contract for, and you're making payments over that threshold, but you're dividing it into several different contracts for the same case. And the question that I'm asking, these block figures that have been provided, were they for the same case or for several different cases? That's all I'm seeking to clarify. It wasn't contract splitting.
This document clarifies it's different cases.
yeah. Mr. Honorable Chair,
Go ahead.
I asked twice if the document was circulated to the members.
That's what we're using.
in
That's what we're
relation to
using.
Yes, so the cases are all listed there.
The cases, but not the amounts of money, only the total amount
Yeah.
of money.
So I was giving you an example with the first matter, where I said the first case on the number 1, that there's a sum of 1.9. Then for the last case under number 1, the figure here is a difference of 500,000 for that matter, the last matter under number 1. Am I clear?
But just to answer it, I think it's not contract splitting. It's just that the contract.
different.
Every lawyer has a different contract. I don't think it's contract splitting.
But it's one company. It's
Yes,
one firm.
yes, but
Chairman.
the cases are different.
Mr. Chairman, on a point of order, Appendix 3, number 1, Robertson Law Firm jointly has 4 different cases to the sum of 5,600,000.
We can read, Ganesh. We can read, Ganesh.
No, but the question, I understand we can read, and I was going to make my copy available to Comrade Edgeo so he can see that the question he's asking is well answered in the document that was provided. Number 1 has 4 different
Mr.
cases.
Chairman,
Number 2 has 4 different cases. Number 3 has 3 different cases. Number 5 has 5 different cases. And all the others have different cases for the sum of money that is allocated. So to simply answer Mr. Edgeo's question, we only have to refer to Appendix 3.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask that to remind that honorable members do not answer questions in the PAC. It's the accounting officer who answers the question.
Honorable
I
members,
thank Mr. Mahal for seeking to verify my reading ability.
I would
But
like to read my document.
that will not stop me from asking a question. I know what I'm asking. And I would like to get so even if it was 4 different cases, as is stated in the document, was it 1 contract executed per case or several contracts executed per case? And the reason why I'm asking that is Mr. Shearer asked a question concerning tender board approvals and cabinet approvals based upon the size and the various tiers of contracts. And that is why I'm asking the question, Mr. Michael. Thank you. Because it's 2019. It would never make sense in 2019.
Member Hawk, would you like to assist in responding to the member's question? Mr. Hawk? PS?
Yes, Chair. Hello?
Yes, you heard the member's question. Can you provide a response, please? Slowly.
Mr. Chair, if the AG's office could be of assistance to the committee, I will indulge the AG to indicate to us.
Yes, you have the floor.
Yeah.
Can you respond to the member's question?
The member said so much, I'm trying to remember what he said.
Okay, can the colleagues?
I am dealing with.
Okay, PS,
so
can
much
any of
here.
your colleagues assist?
The cases or matters that are above the ministerial, the ministry's limit was sent to the tender board, and the tender board in turn usually send, if it is above tender board's limit, they would have sent it to the cabinet for approval. So no payment was made without cabinet's approval, and no splitting of contracts were done.
So can the PS provide us with copies of the NPTAB approvals and copies of the cabinet approvals where they were sent? Because you have two big amounts of the 99. You have one to Courtney Coy, LLP of $34 million, covering 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cases. And you have 25 million to Rex McKay and Neil Boston jointly for 2 cases. So those are both above the tender board limit. Whether they were split into 2, but usually what cabinet would do when consultancy being hired, they would give approval to hire a particular company or firm. So was that done? Because those 2 are clearly above the NPTAB, limit. And it's one company, one legal firm, not several legal firms. And in the case of Boston and McKay, it was done jointly. So those 2 would have had to have gone to cabinet for approval. Yes. And the copies of the NPTAB approval for all the others that were above or within the NPTAB, legal affairs limit, and within the NPTAB limit.
Okay, so you're asking for all the approvals?
Yes, cabinet and NPTAB.
Okay, and the ministerial?
Yes.
Okay, noted.
You make that available within a week's time to the Public Accounts Committee, PS?
Yes, Chair.
But sir, I something that just crossed my mind. The last time this person who's answering, this distinguished lady, indicated that she was on pre-retirement leave.
I am on retirement right now.
So she's not the PS. She's the former PS. So perhaps the PS who ought to assist us with all our requests is the person who is the PS currently.
Well, she is aware of the request being made, and given the fact that...
No, but I hear a former PS, and we're addressing her as PS. So I wanted to verify her.
So somebody that
I just want to verify that our questioning in keeping with Mr. Shearer and Mr. Edgill's pronouncement in previous PACs that we direct our questions to the sitting PS, and the sitting PS will pass it if he or she is not able to answer and ask for assistance, and so on. So is it the current PS that holds the responsibility of accounting officer? Just wanted to establish that.
More importantly, sir, we have several questions went to the former PS that we're now hearing is on retirement, is a retired person, about presenting documentation, whether or not she's in possession of these documents from cabinet. That's no question. Once those questions should have been put to the current PS. So
none of us knew, but Ms. Finance, none of us. Ms. Finance, none of us knew that she was on retirement. We were not told that. So we had known
Yes,
that.
was on leave, but now we're hearing that she's retired.
Exactly.
Currently, yes, here
But
she was
we
on
have-
leave, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
She was on pre-retirement and her retirement started on the 1st of April.
awesome.
Well,
Yes,
we're happy that she has committed to be here, and given the fact
Yes.
that the request was made to the ministry, and we have
Exactly.
in here and the actual sitting PS, we are redirecting that responsibility to UPS to provide acting. She is the PS.
Acting as PS as well.
So we are redirecting the request made by the honorable member for you to provide the committee with
Yes,
that
I will
within the-
definitely provide
Thank you very
information
much.
request.
Within a week, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Chair, for clarifying that. And after serving our nation for 35 years, it seems as though I'm being attacked by the Honorable Bishop today on the last meeting.
Okay, let me say to you, honorable member, the member's approach sometimes may appear to be as if he's attacking.
Yeah.
That is his style, and it is not to offend you. But I believe we owe it to you to say thank you for your service to
35 years of exemplary service. I am not promoting myself or thing, but I think I would have done well. And that one last discussion we had on that paragraph before, I don't think it should have been ventilated the way it did, because some of us sometimes we do not remember everything, and it is human to err and divine to forgive. So I think we need to approach as permanent secretaries. I think we need to be very professional. Sometimes I think the members should be professional with us and don't let us feel as though we are criminals. We are doing things wrong deliberately. You don't know how much I would have taken on that specific matter on that electrical work. I had so much headache when I saw what happened. And to be taking blame for it, you don't want to throw people under the bus. I cannot really recall. I am angry because I think the bishop should not have behaved the way he did.
I disagree. I disagree.
Well.
I disagree.
Yes.
I'm afraid I have to disagree with Ms. Nesta Barrows.
Okay,
Yes.
The Public Accounts Committee.
I would
Committee.
Man, treat us with some respect, man. We need to be treated with some respect.
Member,
As though I was lying. No, it sounds as though I was lying. I lied to the committee. I said if I give the impression that I was not there, I do apologize.
Both Mr. Maipol and Edgell said that you had misled. Misled the PAC. Both members said it, not just Bishop Edgell. Both Maipol and Edgell said that you misled the committee. And that is the truth. Don't just focus on one member.
Mr. Chairman.
Both of them, not just one person. I am sorry if they felt that way.
Unfortunately.
We are taking, I regret that we are going in this direction.
Sir, I would want us not to go into this direction.
Because
hold on.
We are in a public hearing.
I haven't given you the floor, sir. It's regrettable that the PS would have concluded that from the members of this committee asking questions based on her response.
Yeah.
And I too was led to believe that you had no involvement in this particular issue that you want to accuse members of attacking you. But as I would have indicated, I don't believe the members were attacking you. The members were seeking clarification from an accounting officer who was responsible for the stewardship of a ministry. And I don't want this issue to continue. And I want you to understand that we here as members of the Public Accounts Committee have a duty to ensure that we hold accounting officers responsible in executing their mandate with regards to the law, the letter of the law. And we will continue to be resolute in executing our responsibility. And we do so not in an effort to offend anybody, even though at times some may feel offended. It is not intentional. But I don't believe any member intentionally seek out to disrespect any accounting officer. Our responsibility is to ensure that transparency and accountability is achieved at the Public Accounts Committee. And I believe that is what we endeavor to do. And when we observe lapses, we make the necessary recommendations. We have the technical team here to lend assistance to us. And all of those are done as a collective to ensure that we get the best of service out of our public servants and our accounting officers. And you have indicated to this committee you would have served Guyana for more than 33 years. And we respect your service. We appreciate your service. And know that you're in retirement and you have shown your commitment to still be here. We applaud that. But we don't want you to ever believe that the members of the committee will willfully endeavor to disrespect you or any member who happens to be an accounting officer coming before this committee. I would like to close this in this regard.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Do we have any other questions?
So I wouldn't be allowed to be.
No, sir. I think I would have covered that. And members, we want to thank you for making an appearance. And yes, I trust that you would enjoy your retirement. And once again, on behalf of this committee, on behalf of Guyana, we would like to thank you for your service. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You're welcome.
Member, I think we will take a break for 45 minutes, and then we will proceed thereafter. Thank you.
Like a bow, I never break. Our fathers came here, and they lived and died here, and we ain't moving nowhere. Big mistake, 'cause we ain't giving up no mountain, we ain't giving up no tree, we ain't giving up no river that belongs to we. Not one blue sake, not one rice grain, not one rice, not a bit.